Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Women, welcome. My name is Marsha Iverson. I'm the co-founder of Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Women with my colleague and friend, Tara Bellevue. In addition to co-directing the TGTW, I'm also the New York City Field Associate for the CTE Technical Assistance Center of New York. We help schools with programming and professional development in all areas of career and tech ed. So I work with many of your schools. In addition to that, I'm an associate professor and program director at Hofstra University, the School of Education. I direct 3 programs there: business education, family and consumer sciences. And by the way, in New York City schools, most schools do not have family and consumer sciences programs. Elsewhere in New York State they do, and work-based learning. But originally, I was a business educator and program director in the Valley Stream School District for 37 years. Valley Stream is a community on the South Shore of Long Island. In addition to all of that, one of my professional accomplishments is that I have co-authored 3 textbooks that schools all over the United States use. So I bring my long and varied career to the mission of Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Women, which is to empower New York City students to set goals and develop strategies to reach them. We have had many face-to-face conferences each year since we began, but this year, obviously, it's quite different. So we're doing this virtually. Hopefully, in the future, we will be able to go back to face-to-face conferences. While many of the videos in this series bring information from women of today, which I guess I am, in various career areas, this one will hopefully bring clarity to the field of education. I just mentioned that I'm an educational consultant or an associate professor. The Technical Assistance Center is a non-profit company which is supported by New York State. On the other hand, Hofstra University is an educational organization, a private university, and while their mission is obviously to educate students, they strive to do so while making a profit. This is different, for instance, from the CUNY and SUNY schools. Those schools are supported by state and local funds. So again, they are nonprofit. For both of these positions, you need a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. This is a minimum of 6 years of education beyond high school. However, you can begin teaching with a bachelor's degree and then work toward your master's in the evening while you're teaching. You must earn that master's degree within 5 years. And then after your master's, teachers are required to take additional courses in professional development. In fact, about 50 hours a year. And then after the master's, you can take these courses or a program. In my case, actually after my master's, I made the decision to pursue a doctoral degree. I never completed it, fortunately or unfortunately, because I chose to be a mom. And I wanted more time to spend with my 2 little girls. However, thinking back, I should have delayed that a little bit and gotten my doctorate, because I often think that choice wasn't the best for me professionally. Perhaps personally it is, but again, we all do things that make us make choices one way or another. Having said that, I certainly wouldn't give up the time that I did spend with my kids. So now I'm going to ask you, when you think about the characteristics of your favorite teacher, and I hope you have one, my guess is that you would list characteristics such as caring, compassionate, funny, prepared, empathetic, a good role model, etc. Very few, I'm going to guess, would say know their subject. And that's because we presume teachers know their subject. It's the other skills, sometimes called the soft skills, that make a difference. In fact, without effective people skills, it's difficult to be a good teacher. By the way, most of us want to be remembered, so that's why those things are important. Education has changed dramatically since the time I began teaching many years ago. Just one example, when I started teaching, before computers were even invented. Can you imagine? I know it's hard to believe. I started teaching typing on manual typewriters and shorthand, which is just that, a shorter way to write things. They don't teach shorthand anymore. But today, teachers teach keyboarding or typing on computers using a variety of computer programs. There's certainly no typewriters anymore. And changes and advances in technology aren't the only differences. It's only one of them. Students have evolved as well. Today's students are probably more worldly and social conscious than before, which is great. They're more likely used to being engaged in fast-paced environment. Sitting with notebooks out and pens in hand is really considered old-fashioned and probably boring to many of you. And thus, we as teachers need to plan lessons that engage students for all types of learners. Those people who like to research themselves, those people who like to work in groups, all of that is part of what we need to do when we develop lessons. I mention this because the point is that education evolves. And our clients, in business terms, are our students. And since they change, technology change, expectations from parents change, we need to be at the forefront of that. We need to do that. In order to be successful, an educator needs to continually evolve, study, and keep up with what students need, deserve, and want. One of the misconceptions about teaching is that we work 7 hours a day, 10 months a year. I hear it a lot. Oh, you have an easy job, 180 days. Well, that's the time that we're in the classroom. However, teaching is so much more. Creating lessons that engage students and bring real-world information and experiences into the classroom takes time. In fact, I like to tell my students that for every 45-minute lesson, they should figure that they're going to spend an hour and a half, double that time, planning the lessons, if you want it to really make sense. So while teaching is not easy, I often say that teaching is the best job to love and the worst job to hate. Kiddingly, I say teachers can't even go to the bathroom when they want. They're stuck in those classrooms for those 45 minutes or an hour and a half or whatever. So teaching has to be a passion. And quite honestly, I think any career that you decide, if it's a passion, you will be successful. If you're doing it just for the paycheck, just for the hours, just for whatever other reason, it will be considered, or it will feel like a real job. Teaching, as most careers, is real passion. So, and by the way, the greatest, I think, gift is that you are working and making a difference in children's lives in the next generation, and that they will remember that forever. When you think about your futures and possibly becoming an educator, knowing that being able to communicate effectively with a wide range of people, not just your students, is critical. For instance, you need to be able to work with other colleagues, with other teachers. You need to work with parents and communicate with them. You need to work with administrators. You need to work with school staff. There's a whole range of people that you need to be able to communicate effectively with in order to be an effective teacher. Other key characteristics are being empathetic, funny, interested and compassionate. And that's a tall order for sure. Now, I wanted to be a teacher from the time that I was a little girl. I can remember having my class sitting on the floor of my room. When my mom, dad, or my sisters came in, I would admonish them and say, "Don't step on my students." However, not all teachers make the decision so early in their lives, and that's okay too. I should also say that when I was a young girl, obviously a long time ago, the options for young women were limited. Teaching and nursing were the most viable options for us. Rarely were young women guided into what are considered non-traditional careers and pathways. There were very few women doctors then, women lawyers then, women police officers, women firefighters. Fortunately, this is obviously not true today. Your options are limitless. I encourage you to think about yourself, your skills, abilities, and talents, what you like to do, what kind of a lifestyle do you want. Think out of the box. Evaluate those, and then and what you envision for yourself, and then you go from there. While many prospective teachers start college with the goal of becoming a teacher, like me, others enter the profession after pursuing other occupations. For instance, I've had many marketing directors, accountants who have said, "Oh, I'm not really sure I want to continue to do that." I had recently an attorney who came to me and said, "I don't really like being a lawyer. I really want to teach. That's what I want to do." And so they bring real-world experiences and knowledge into the classroom and benefit students. And that's terrific too. They share their professional knowledge. Another aspect that makes teaching somewhat unique is that we can become involved in school clubs and activities. These not only extend their day or year, but it also gives them the opportunity to get to know students and work with them in a different way. So for instance, coaches see kids in a totally different light and get to know them and make a difference in their lives. For instance, some of my favorite relationships and memories from my 37 years in Valley Stream in the high school were from being a club advisor, a play coordinator, honor society leader, etc. I still have connections and relationships with students who graduated high school in 1974. Those kids, I mean, you're talking, they're probably about 63 years old now. So you're really speaking about a long-term relationship. In fact, one of my students turned 60, and his brother, who I also had as a student, called me and said, "We're having a big party for Joe in California. Would you do me a favor and record," similar to what I'm doing now, "a welcome to everybody?" And I said, "Why me? Who's going to know who I am there?" They said, "Oh, we have Marsha Iverson stories all the time. We talk about you all the time. Everybody will know who you are." I did it, and it was pretty gratifying that somebody from so many years ago remembered me and wanted to be part of their celebration. I hope this was helpful in terms of your thinking about deciding and choosing a career, whether it's education or not, and give you some background or the backstory of education and an educator who has loved every single day of my career. I only wish for all of you to have a career like I did, like I do, and that is to do what you love all the time. I think there's an expression that says if you do what you love or your job is what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's sort of true for me as well. I welcome you to call me or contact me rather at TGTW if you have any questions about teaching, if you want to discuss the profession, if you want to discuss options in terms of career planning and your career development. I am happy to assist. I hope you found this helpful. And again, I'm Marsha Iverson, co-director, co-founder of the Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Woman initiative, and a teacher for life. Thank you.